hardest win in the playoff series is always that clinching game. For the Panthers, special teams were a big issue as the Tampa Bay Lightning defeat the Panthers 6-3 to force a Game 5 back in Sunrise.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Saturday, April 27th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez for the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. The mobile hit twists on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. So the Florida Panthers came into Saturday afternoon's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, which we knew that the Panthers were going to get a desperate hockey team in the Tampa Bay Lightning. They got Mikhail Sergachev back after missing in his first game since February 7th in a game where the Florida Panthers only gave up one goal at 5-on-5, but the Tampa Bay Lightning scored in multiple ways outside of even strength and 5-on-5 for them. So that proved to be costly for the Florida Panthers in this 6-3 loss, as their lead in this series is now 3-1. But joining me on this post-game edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, he is someone that has been on the show before. Both of the times that he's been on, it's been when the Florida Panthers were on one side of a sweep, and then the other one was when the Florida Panthers swept the Carolina Hurricanes. So decided to invite this guest, in hopes that it could have happened for the Panthers. He is formerly of PantherParkway.com, David Lasseter. David, welcome to the show. And unfortunately, this time it's not a sweep for the Panthers. So welcome back, though.
Thank you. It's funny. I was thinking about that today when you wanted to have me on, and I said, wow, that'd be something. So I'm glad you picked up the connection too. That the other two times we've spoken in the postseason, getting swept by Tampa, and then sweeping Carolina last year in the Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah, and if you notice, and even on Twitter, I tried to limit the multiple times. I tried to limit the times that I say sweep until it actually happens. It's like whenever a pitcher is throwing for a no-hitter, you don't mention no-hitter or shutout for a goaltender. You don't mention shutout in the middle of it. So that's why I never wanted to mention the word sweep. But now that the game's done, it's over with for the Panthers and the Lightning. But really what it came down to, David, was really the jump that the Tampa Bay Lightning had. Obviously, the I'm sure you heard on TV, but the crowd was just roaring. When Andrei Vasilevsky was introduced last, the roar for Sergachev was just so loud that he couldn't hear that his name. But for the Panthers, really, they knew that they were going to get a jump from the Tampa Bay Lightning, and them controlling the majority of play. I mean, you think about for this one, the Lightning, they get the first goal of the game in this one, and what has happened for every time the team who scored first, they've won in this series. Prior to that, Tampa Bay only led for 7:02 of the period. But you think of the first few where a lot of high danger chances, and then they get it to Stamkos, who scores, who got another one too, the fifth goal on the night. But it really came down to the Tampa Bay Lightning also gaining the zone more at ease too. We saw a lot of on the power play where the Bolts would try to play that jump, dump, and chase game a lot with the Panthers because they had a hard time gaining it. But we didn't really see too much of that. They gained the zone a lot more easily on the night.
They did, and Sergachev, or coming back or not, you knew they were going to come out with with everything they have. Their backs against the wall. There's still a pretty good amount of players left from that championship team or championship teams, I should say. So you knew they weren't going to just roll over and But again, Sergachev coming back gives them that little bit extra. Whether how effective he was or not, just him being in there after that horrific injury where you thought he was maybe done for till next October. But you mentioned it that they weren't really, and I hate to use this word, but I guess they weren't a sandpaper. Things like you said, things seemed a little bit easier for Tampa. They got a lot of shots on Bobrovsky, and unfortunately, Bobrovsky had a bad night. Probably should have not brought him out for the second, but that's hindsight.
Yeah, and listen, you think about what happened with the multiple goals that the Tampa Bay Lightning scored. A lot of them were from distance too. Some of them were. One of them was on a breakaway that Tampa Bay Lightning had, and all of Ekman-Larsson was a little bit crossed up with Anthony Cirelli, who was getting caught on the outside. And credit to Tampa Bay on the shorthanded goal, they used Oliver Ekman-Larsson as a screen, and Bob was a little slow to react there. But also the slight stutter step that Brayden Point had, where you drew Bobrovsky to a little bit to one side that he couldn't get to his post on the other. Right before that, you're thinking, man, this is the kind of jump that you expected Tampa Bay to have too. But also, Florida, they made a push in the second period. They got three goals out of it. Unfortunately, in the middle of that, the Tampa Bay went on the rush on 4-on-2, where Brendan Hagel beat Sergei Bobrovsky on the far side too. So that was a little bit of a momentum killer for them. But you think about also the breakaways that Tampa Bay had. Duke was tripped on one. There was, and Gustav Forsling had another one earlier too. So it was really about how Tampa Bay protected that blue line too, and getting the puck out, pinning them against the wall, winning their battles. Something that we didn't really see much. It was more going into Florida's favor, really, in the first few games. So it really got to give credit to where credit is due. Adjustments were made, and you look at the numbers of power plays. I mean, yeah, there were some abbreviated ones with Tampa Bay going for on one ending just less than about 15 seconds into the power play, but still Tampa Bay scored after that with 4-on-4 too. So a little bit frustrating, even though at the time you say, okay, they ended their own chance, but open ice, I think of it as shades of 2021, where you see goals from distance, crashing into the net, getting on the doorstep, and then having an outlet, not an outlet pass, a pass to the flank, and then Bobrovsky can't react fast enough too. So it was a lot of shades of 2021 of that postseason, and there's a reason why, even though Bob's not going to get you that big save too, even though he did have a bad night, you're thinking about how the Panthers defensively weren't tight neither around Sergei Bobrovsky too.
Yeah. I mean, but I think were both of Stamkos's goals from. I know the second one was from to Bob's, right? Was that first goal like that too? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was a backhand from Point after a few high quality chances and a save, and then one time the second one was a wrister.
Yeah, so it's no one really had a great game for the Panthers. There's no one that really stands out. They showed a little fight coming back, but the defense, they got a lot of pucks on Bobrovsky too. So, but there's there's things everyone could have done better. But I kind of look at Bob gave up some rough angle shots and just seemed a little slow. And then you mentioned the one he couldn't get over to the right post, from his left post to the right post. So it's one game. It's unfortunate, but like I said, I don't think anyone really played well. Um, but thankfully we've got game five back in our barn on Monday. Close them out. Close them out. You can shake this one off. Don't give them a chance to feel good coming out in game five. Get on them early. Put them away. Don't end this. Don't let it go back to Tampa, because that's when everyone starts to get a little bit of lemon boogie. Things tighten up a little bit, and you don't want to do that. End it Monday. Give the home fans something to cheer about, and hopefully we can move on. But this one, you just forget and say, we didn't have it tonight. Let's move on.
Mm-hmm, for sure. One thing of note for this one is Sam Reinhart, with his goal, is now the most in a season Florida Panthers history, regular season and post. Now has 60, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson scored his first postseason goal since the 2020 bubble when he was with the Arizona Coyotes. So one thing of note there as far as some personal accomplishments there for some Panthers players. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2. We're going to discuss more about the 3 stars of the game and the moment when we thought this game was won or lost. We're going to discuss this and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. And when you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talented roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites for looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching, assessment, and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed US data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. Indeed knows when you're hiring to grow your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application. Pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day long? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Back on this Saturday night post-game edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast here on April 27th for this post-game edition of the show where the Florida Panthers lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning by a final score of 6-3 in regulation from Amalie Arena, now forcing a Game 5. And it is a Saturday night. It is 9:32 p.m. and there's nothing I'd rather do right now than do a post-game win or a loss for the Panthers. So still, regardless, grateful to be here with all of you, and great to be here with you, David, too. But thank you once again. But for this one, 3 stars of the game for me. For me, I gotta go with Nikita Kucherov, which now he's in some elite company when it comes to his 3 assist game. 10 now one of few players who have 3 assists in a playoff game, 10 career 3 assist games, joining Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Paul Coffey, and Doug Gilmour. So that's some company that he is in. And honestly, 3 players draw to Kucherov right before he gets to the point, right before that wraparound goal, just force on the ice. Second star, Steven Stamkos, now 5 goals in the series. I know he wants to get paid after taking a big sacrifice 8 years ago, right before he was threatening to possibly sign with Toronto. Now he's thinking, Breezewall, pay me, please. So now 5 goals in the series for him. And Mikhail Sergachev, I was just looking at the final chart for Sergachev. He played over 4 minutes on the power play. He was part of that top unit. There was a lot of switching around. He was on that second pair too with Eric Chernak. So that just brings so much a different balance in the lineup. I mean, you already saw where Duclair was bumped down on the line too, starting in game 3. So the adjustments, they were made by Tampa Bay. So now it really comes down to what Florida getting back to their game on Monday night when they're back in their own barn. So your 3 stars for this game, sir.
Well, not very imaginative, and certainly there's no Panthers on there because they don't really deserve it tonight. But I'm going to go with Brayden Point as my 3rd star. Had a goal, drew a penalty. Probably should have got a penalty shot. I'm not sure why he didn't on that.
On Tkachuk, yeah,
breakaway in the first period.
Yeah.
But they called it as it is. That's about the only favor that the officials did for Florida for the last couple games. So, second that, Brandon Hagel. 2 goals himself, scored that goal in the middle of the second period. That kind of took a little bit of momentum away, even though they got it back to 4-3. That was a pretty big answer for them. And then Stamkos, getting the power play goal early. He was fired up. That's a leader. That's that kind of set the tone for for that period, and then thus the game. But you could tell those guys were amped up, and when he scored, you could see his emotion, the team's emotion. Didn't think they were going to score 2 more right after that, but they did, and that's hockey series, playoff series, that happens.
You see you see some strange things in a playoff series. You even see Barkov going into the box for a rough after a little quick rush with him and Nick Paul. So that was something where I kind of disagreed with that. But I mean, hey, if that means Barkov is playing more aggressive, delivering more hits, which by the way, this was another game where looking up the hits right now. Hold on, as we speak, 75 plus 69. Whatever that number is, nice, by the way, but it's a very physical series still. But Paul Maurice also spoke about how it's just little bumps that they're counting as hits, so he doesn't really see it too much as a huge, at least this one, as a lot of physicality for this one. At least that's his opinion there. But still, there's gonna be some bumps and bruises coming out of this one. But comeback effort, we spoke about getting it into the third when it came to the third period. The Panthers are out shooting the Lightning going into the third period 18-10 at 5-on-5. So just that alone, when you look at it, keep the game there and you give yourself a chance. That's all you could ask for when you're up 3-1 and you see that the 5-on-5 play is definitely in your favor with those 3 goals in period number 2, which takes me to the point where I thought this game was lost for the Panthers. Panthers were down. They were going on the penalty kill, and then Montour, unfortunately, has a major tackle on who was it that he tackled? He tackled Nikita Kucherov while they were already killed, and we see the Tampa Bay Lightning convert on the 5-on-3 by Nick Paul, and that's where I said, even when once the penalty was called, I said that's it. That's all she wrote. There was no way that the Panthers were going to come back from this. Penalty trouble was just a thing all night with just positioning, especially in the neutral zone. They had some trouble. I mean, all 3 zones basically, but neutral zone was especially big when it came to just out of position. And also credit. I will say credit to Kulikov, not preventing the Lightning from catching them on a change that created OEL's goal. So credit them for not getting caught. But that's besides the point. But that Montour penalty when they were already down, that was my moment. How about yours?
I guess I was in a little bit of negative mood today because once they went up 3-0, and obviously they came back and made it more interesting. Once they went up 3-0, I'm like, and especially when they brought Bob back out for the second. So you say, okay, they made it interesting, but at 3-0, I'm like, okay, let's just get to Monday. That's usually not like me, especially with this team, with the way they come back. But I watched Liverpool draw this morning, and it angered me. So I was already in a negative mood. So I said, "Oh, that's it, 3-0. We're done." And ultimately they were. They made it interesting, which is nice to see. But you can't give up 3 goals in the first period and not answer back in that period. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for the Panthers, and honestly, when it came to Bob coming back for the second, if you give up maybe those 3 goals in the second, if it's already 0-0, maybe you think about bringing in Stolarz. But with it being that early and 40 minutes left to play, I never thought for 1 second that he was that he wasn't going to come out for the second period. I mean, here's a number I was scrolling through at the end of the first. It was 6 chances off turnovers. It was 6-1 Tampa Bay in their chances off the turnover. So it was really about a little bit of carelessness with the puck for the Florida Panthers, and just the Panthers just a little bit slow to their feet when it came to retrievals too for them. So I mean, and it's funny because even going into that second period, they said in the last 5 years only two teams have blown 3-goal leads and lost. And Tampa Bay was one of them. So that was something I was keeping an eye on. So Panthers got it close, but just not close enough for them to at least make it a sweep. But game 5 on Monday, you still just need one more. And as I said at the top, it's the fourth one is always the hardest one to clinch. But we're going to continue that conversation coming up in segment number 3. What are the guys saying after the game? And more. We're going to discuss that here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. And I've been told that I have a competitive side. And yes, my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great plot twist on Monopoly where you can play not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up to amazing cities that bring money. The best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on iconic properties like classic Monopoly, but now I can just heist their vaults of riches for myself. Leaderboards show who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is, but it's just not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments and earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Join Monopoly Go on App Store or Google Play. Third and final segment here on this Saturday, April 27th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Saturday, here with David Lasseter, formerly of PantherParkway.com, to recap this 6-3 loss for the Florida Panthers against the Tampa Bay Lightning, where Game 5 is now on Monday, 7 p.m. on ESPN and Valley Sports Florida. So we already have the time and everything for the game. So one thing that we spoke to the locker room is Eetu Luostarinen spoke about it. He said about losing this game. He said we have to move on, get rest, get home, and get back on home ice, close quote. Also, Maurice talked about in his pregame availability about this. I love this from Paul Maurice, because in right before Game 2, he spoke about the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threat. He also spoke about another term, risk tolerance, a financial term, investments. If anyone out there is into that, you hear this term, risk tolerance. So he knew that the Tampa Bay Lightning were going to have a certain amount of risk tolerance when it came to possibly pinching up in their own zone. when it comes to keeping the puck in, also making that pass on that stretch on a breakaway too. So that's another thing of what to expect when a team is down. So thankfully, and also Paul Maurice was in a good mood going into the media room too. The first thing he said to the media was, "Oh man, it's hot in here. How can they make you guys work in up here?" And also during his post-game availability on Thursday when they won, he's like, 3 more questions, messing with the PR people. And then today, after we were done with questions, like, no, we're gonna stay here. So it gives me kind of a sense of lack of worry for the coach when it comes to this. And it just something that was said also yesterday at the team hotel was living in 24-hour increments, fragments, whatever word you want to use here. And I think it's a really good mindset going into the off day tomorrow as they're heading back tonight. Still no word on whether they are practicing. We still haven't gotten the email, but still, the Panthers are in pretty good spirits going back home.
As they should be. I mean, I would much rather, even despite what happened tonight, I'd much rather be up 3-1 than trying to claw back from 1-3. And if the coach is going to be uptight, everyone's little sphincters are going to tighten up, and you don't want that. You want these guys to play loose. They played 3 really good, solid hockey games, the first 3 games of the series. Tonight it wasn't there. But now you go back home. The crowds at the arena have been incredible. Let the crowd jump on. Let the crowd make a bunch of noise in pregame like they did today. Like they did for Tampa over there. And there's no reason to panic. Like I said, 3-2. That's a little bit squeaky bum time. But there's no reason to do that now, because if Maurice is going to act like that, then everyone else is going to tighten up, and next thing you know, it's going to be a 3-3 series. So you don't want that. So no, it's fine. They go home, close it up Monday, and everything's fine.
Yeah, and every it's funny because every game for this one, you think about where 3 had scoring from Tampa Bay, Florida responds. Then you see this one where, yeah, the Tampa Bay Lightning got the last change. Now, thankfully for Monday, that shifts with Florida now getting the last change too. But for the Lightning, we and the Panthers, you see the top end talent guys get on the board on both with the exception of Nicholas Paul for the Lightning. So that's also what I've noticed here as the top scorers getting on the board. Verhaeghe, another tally for him on the night. So Swaggy gets on the board too for him. So it's another thing that I noticed as far as different themes for this one. And really, it really comes down to just getting back in on your forecheck, just getting them out of duress when it comes to once that puck is loose, get it back down low. And because the Panthers, that's when they're best, when they get the puck down low and they don't know where Matthew Tkachuk is going to feed it, if he's going to feed it back up high for up to the blue line where they can create a screen. I mean, also credit to the Panthers for keeping that puck in the zone and getting it back right and get on their forecheck for that first goal too. So that's another thing when it comes down to just getting back to the game that they know best, because they kind of got away with it from it. Excuse me.
Just I mean, looking ahead to Monday, just play like you did the first 3 games. Although maybe don't give them that early second period boost to let them get back into things. But, you look at the other night with the way they played in Tampa. It's perfect. And they got contributions from the fourth line, which, they could use a little bit more bottom 6 stuff, even, the other night notwithstanding. Be nice to see Lasseter get a goal or Rodriguez. I thought maybe Rodriguez might be that guy that gets on a bit of a heater. So far, it hasn't happened yet. He did have an assist tonight. But just play your game, play the way you've played all year. You're going to be fine. But like I said, maybe some secondary scoring would be great because Kachuk and Reinhart and Verhaeghe and scoring all the goals. That's fine. That's what they're paid the big bucks to do. But you win cups by getting contributions from everybody. Be nice to see Barkov get a goal. I thought he was somewhat aggressive, at least in the first period. He's doing fantastic defensively. But you need more than a couple guys to score goals because Vasilevsky isn't playing all that great either. Bob had a bad game, but Vasilevsky his save percentage tonight was still I think 880. So he's not playing great. It's not like he's on a heater. They just need somebody other than the top three to score.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when in the first three games when you see 12 power plays for the Lightning, and then you get almost half of those in one game. Hopefully for the Panthers, it's funny because the Panthers didn't get a single power play on Thursday. So wonder how the officiating is going to be on Monday, even though some of the penalties, the Panthers definitely deserve the Forsling one on Duke's breakaway, the one on Brayden Point by Matthew Tkachuk, which, like you mentioned, surprised it wasn't a penalty shot. So gonna see what I mean, but it comes down to really how the Panthers just keep the puck in their own zone with their pinches and how quickly the Tampa Bay Lightning get that puck out right before the Panthers get it, right before the Panthers get caught too. So that's going to be another thing to look for in regards to Gate 5 on Monday, where the Panthers are excited to come home, but it's but we were all hoping for some rest and a week off, because sometime in a playoff series, if you want to win a cup, you gotta get at least one short series there. And to quote, I know the song lyrics from that AC/DC song with Bon Scott. It says it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll, but it's a long way to the top if you want to win the cup. So definitely gotta have at least one short series on if you have any desires to win the cup. But David, any last words before we get out of here?
Stay out of the box on Monday. Recognize that you're not going to, the way it's looking, you're not going to get any calls. Play your game, but stay out of the box. I can't complain as far as with the Panthers getting the penalties, because they were all penalties. I get my backside chafed when it's not called the other way, when there's some pretty obvious things. Oh, let it go. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I don't think the refs are out to get us, but stay out of the box. Don't give them power plays. And you wrap up the series on Monday, and we could worry about Boston, Toronto. Boston's up 2-0 right now. So, in that game, they could have a chance to go up 3-1. So they might have a short series too. So,
with Swayman in that too. Looks like they're not going to goalie rotation. Could be that they're sticking with one. So we'll see about that. We'll monitor that. But at the same time, just win the series in 5. So you can follow David on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, at David Lasseter, and you could see him tweet throughout the game and give all his opinions there, good or bad, there on the Florida Panthers. But David, thank you so much for joining me once again. It didn't come in a sweep this time in favor of the Panthers, but still, regardless, thank you so much for joining me, and hope to see you again very soon, my friend.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with David Lasseter, and you've been listening to Locked every day.